So just a little word on kind of cleaning this up. This obviously doesn't look very clean. We've got a lot of different fonts kind of competing in terms of sizes, and we'd probably want to control that in our CSS. But one thing that I wanted to show you was right here. These are just like default HTML styles coming in for the form, and you could refer to Bootstrap if you went to getbootstrap.com, since we're using Bootstrap, and you look at their CSS for things like buttons. You can get these kind of rounded corners pretty easily and these colorful buttons pretty easily if you follow these rules whenever you see a button in your code. You just add the class btn and then btn default for that one, btn primary for this one, btn success gets you that green, and they've got this kind of trendy flat UI, this flat user interface style that's common right now. You can also do things with forms, right? So you get this nice blue glow when you focus on a form field. So we could add those, and I just want to kind of demonstrate them in the inspector for you. So if I were to right click on this and say inspect, to get the form to look more like a Bootstrap form, what you'd do is kind of the div or the paragraph tag that's wrapping the form, like we have here, you'd add this Bootstrap class called form-group. And then the form field itself, in this case, it's a text area tag in the HTML. You'd add a class in there, so I can just say edit as HTML. I'd add a class there and call that form control. So if you were to do all that, then boom, you get this kind of more Bootstrap looking form. This looks a lot nicer and kind of fits the theme a little bit better. Okay, so that's how you do that. And then if I wanted to change this button, I'd inspect it. And over here, what you would do is the same thing. You would say, in the wrapping div or paragraph tag, we'd say form group. And then for this input itself, we would just say, we'd give it a class right here. We'll say btn and then btn-success for that green button. And there we go. Now this looks a little bit more fitting and a little bit more stylistic than just the plain defaults. Okay, but now if I refresh my page, these will be gone because I just did that in the inspector. If you haven't figured that out by now, the inspector kind of loses any changes you make. It's just for kind of hacking things up in the moment to see what will happen. It's a good way to kind of measure out what you need to do with your CSS before you write it. So if I refresh, this will go away. So if you wanted those to stay permanently, you would actually need to go into your comments template that we added here from the 2016 theme. We kind of just copied it over. You'd want to go in here, and where it says comment form, you'd want to add the necessary code in here inside this array to make that happen. And I'm going to leave that to you to kind of mess around with if you'd like. You don't have to do that at all. But if you copy that function name and search for it in WordPress, again, I'm constantly re-emphasizing this idea that if you go to the WordPress documentation, you'll see how these functions are used and all the different things you can do. And as you read it, you'll realize, oh, I can actually go in there and inject my own HTML and add those class names from Bootstrap that we were talking about. And that's how you can get total control over the look and feel of something dynamic like these comments. So I just wanted to point that out. That's one way you could go and kind of clean up those comment forms. And again, if you're curious about any of these functions that you see inside of the comments template, this comments.php file that we added, all you have to do is search them. Okay, you're not expected to necessarily know every single function, but you want to know the main ones and how they work, and that's the purpose of this tutorial.